Dr. David Klee has over 30 years experience as both a teacher of the flute and as a professional musician. He has performed in all kinds of musical organizations, ranging from classical orchestras to heading his own jazz group, the Jazz Express. With these Pro Minute video series, Dr. Klee will share some of his secrets with you on how to become a better flutist. Hello, my name is Dr. David Klee, and welcome to another Pro Minute video. Today we're going to take a look at the MENUET by George BIZET. This can be found in the Concert and Contest Collection for Flute by Rubank. Alrighty, so hopefully the music should be coming up now. And I would suggest the first thing I would look at is the key signature. Well, the key signature has 3 flats. Then we start scanning the music. And the music is pretty much, probably most of it's B flats. There are a few areas that may not, but most of it's B flat. Because of that, I will be using my thumb B flat. So here we go. Take a look at measure 3. Alrighty, so right off the bat, that's a real killer for young flutists. So what am I doing? Okay, first of all, it starts out pianissimo, very soft. So you have to open your teeth, breathe from your diaphragm. To really get the sound to come out nice and clear. And then you notice on measure 4, decrescendo. And you're decrescendoing when you have to go up to the high G. Well, this is where you always want to go up there. You're changing from your middle range embouchure to your high range embouchure. And for those who are not aware of that, you actually have 3 embouchures on your flute. You have low range, middle range, high range. It's a gradual process where the embouchure changes its position so you can get the low range out, and then the middle range, and then the 3rd octave range. And if we remember, in some of my videos, I've shown where in the lowest octave, you're very flat and firm. Your teeth are pulled back, like this. In the middle range, it's more like this. It's kind of what I call a non-embouchure. It's just. But then when you get to the 3rd octave, this lower lip has to come out a lot more, because what you're doing, you're changing the air angle coming out of your mouth. So because of that, by the time I'm up to that high G, I'm like Winnie the Pooh. My lower lip is really sticking out to get that air angle to change for the 3rd octave. So what's happening here, on these first 2 measures, I'm slowly going from middle embouchure to 1st embouchure to middle range to 3rd range. So I'm basically like, da, 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 da. I'm really changing to get that out. And then because of that, you don't need to play loud to get the high G out. This is what it's all about. And so what I would even suggest, measure 4, practice that embouchure and practice just the high G. Just the high G. What happens to a lot of young flutists, they're trying to use their middle range embouchure for the high G, and when they do it, it comes out. And they start sounding like that. So you want to use 3rd range embouchure, a lot of lower lip, Winnie the Pooh. And then it just sails. See how I'm doing that? Now measure 7, 8, same thing, but here we're crescendoing. And then measure 9, we're back to pianissimo. So I'm thinking, open my teeth. Alrighty, so that gives you an overview of what's happening. So measures 3 and 4, you start out pianissimo, and then you're going to get softer. Different ways to approach this. What I like to do is on measure 4, I might put just a little bit more weight on the downbeat of 1 and the downbeat of 2. Yada, yada, yeah. just a little bit. Just a little bit of weight. Where you give the illusion you're holding it just a hair longer, those downbeats. Now measures 5, 6, I do the same thing. Same thing. Now what you don't want to do is at the end of measure 4 and the end of measure 6, that last 8th note, you don't want to go ya da da da. You don't want to stop the air with your tongue. You want to just stop the air. You don't want to go. You don't want to stop it with the tongue because it'll sound like that. Alrighty. Now measure 7 and 8. We're just going to crescendo. Now also on measure 3, 5, and 7, downbeat of 1, you have a tenuto marking. That means you want to give a full value. There's all kind of ways to do it. You can go da, da, just a hair of a separation. You could do that. Or da, da, ya, da. Either one of those I think would be appropriate. But you don't want to go da, 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 da. That would not be appropriate. Alrighty, now finally measure 9 and 10. We have 2 notes like that. Now what I do, since I have vibrato, I just put a little weight on them. Ya, ya, I do that. Okay, now we have a grace note. Since this is a fairly modern piece from the late Romantic period, I want to put the grace note right before the beat, the downbeat of 3 in that major 9. Now, fortunately, that's easy. Just go GF. But you don't want to make a triplet. Da-da-da-da-da. I hear a lot of young students do that when they go to solo ensemble. I've been judging them for 40 years, these different events. And the grace note should not affect the rhythm of the main note, which is F. Ya, da, dia, da, 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 da. Dia, 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 da, 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 da. That's all it should be. Alrighty, here we are, measure 11 and 12. Now, if you notice a big change here, measure 11, we're only piano. Now, we're not pianissimo, we're just piano, so we get a little louder. But now, we're also kicking this up a notch, because in measure 12, we got ya. It almost sounds like you're yodeling now. So again, I use my thumb B flat, that way it eliminates all finger problems, because if you had to do a fork B flat there, that would be so awkward. I hear that all the time in solo ensemble. Their little fingers are so awkward there because they're trying to use a fork B flat. Use a thumb B flat. It's so much easier. So what I would do, I would just practice 12 and I would practice just the B flat G's. To get it nice and clear with the embouchure, then I would just practice the E flat, B flats. And then you try the whole measure. Okay? Now you do have to make some changes with the embouchure because you're starting out at the upper range of your middle range embouchure, that B flat G, and then you're going up to the third range embouchure, which is your high range. So you got to make some changes here. So if you were to really zero into my mouth, you would see ooh, 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 ooh. You would really see some changes here. I'll do it again. If I didn't do that, I hear all kind of snap, crackle, pop, and poor students trying to play that. So I'm literally going, ooh, 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 ooh. I'm really doing that to get that to work. So if I put 11 and 12 together, alrighty, so that would take care of that, how you do that. Now, measure 13, well, we got some new thematic material here, but very similar. Now here, we're going down to the first octave embouchure. So I'll start on 13. So again, I'm still having to use my embouchure to get those different intervals out. Anytime you have intervals, you've got to be really aware of the embouchure and making those subtle changes. So now what I'm doing here, as I'm going down to that low F between 13 and 14, I'm changing to my first octave embouchure, which is like this. I'm opening my teeth, I'm pushing from my diaphragm, and then by doing that, I can keep the volume level instead of the volume getting softer. A lot of young flute players, when they play that, they go, they disappear in that lower octave because they're still using their middle range embouchure and they're not adjusting for the lower octave. So if you do it real slow, and you would see what I'm doing, I'm going do 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 do. I'm changing like this, and that's how I play that. So if you were watching, you would see my embouchure very subtly, but it's changing to do that. So that way I can keep the volume equal, everything is good. And you don't have to blast out that high B flat or anything like that. Now measure 15, 16, it's basically E flat scale here. And also on 16, you have a decrescendo, you have a crescendo, decrescendo. So I got louder and a little softer. Now, measure 17, what I like to do there, it's almost like you're skimming over those notes. Ya, da, da, ya, da, da, ya, da, 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 da. Alrighty. Now, measure 19, we have a little change in thematic material. Here we go and sing. So again, you got 19 and 20 at pianissimo, 21 you're crescendoing, 22 you're decrescendoing. Alrighty, so you have a crescendo, decrescendo, and you notice something else. As I was pushing my way into measure 21, I may have increased the energy a little bit, so I got just a hair faster pushing into it. And then measure 22, I slowed it down just a hair at the end of that phrase. That's called making music. And then 23, here we go again. Alrighty, so now the beautiful piece of this, but a lot of students don't do this. They don't know enough to not take advantage of this. So at 23, you got the first notes tied to the previous four measures, so obviously you're not going to take a breath there. So if I were to start at 22, ya, 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 F. Then you take a breath right where the breath mark is, ya, da, 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 ya. Guess what? You can take a breath after that G. Ya, da, 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 ya, breath. Ya, da, da, because that's a longer phrase. And usually with younger flute players, they need all the breaths they can get. So that works out well. And then I'm still crescendoing, because you notice in measure 24 it says crescendo. So I'm getting louder, stronger, more energy. 25. Now 26, you're going to hit it just a little bit, and then it says diminish. Well, on top of diminish, I might just back it down just a hair to finish that out. So I'm going to start at 23. Alrighty, so then at 27, you take your breath, and the same thing there. I've got staccato marked with slurs, so I like to put ya, da, da, just a little bit of space. So at 26, Now at 31, it starts pianissimo. And then basically, we're going to be crescendoing all the way into 34. Okay, there's several ways to do this. So 31, you start pianissimo. 32, you can be a little louder. 33, definitely louder, and then crescendo. And a couple different ways to do this. You're probably thinking, okay, where am I going to breathe? I won't make 4 measures, not when I'm a young flutist. Well, there's a couple ways to do this, because you got that pattern of 31. So what do we do at 31? What on earth do we do about breathing? What I probably would suggest to my students, if you could make 3 measures, do da 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 da, breath. The dotted quarter C, take a breath after that, then and then play the D da da in the measure 34. If you can't even make that, which some young flute players can't, I would do it with measures 31, 32, like this. See how I took a breath? Nobody's even going to catch that. The secret is, when you have to sneak in a breath, don't stop the note before with your tongue. Don't go da, da. And you make it sound natural the way I just did it. See, I just took 2 breaths, and it worked out really well. Okay, so that's a couple different ways to do that. And then measure 34, that's the big ya da 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 dee da 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 da. So I would hit it, get slower, get softer, take a big breath. And you don't have to be in tempo here, because you're slowing it down, and then the pianist will follow you taking that breath. And then we're into measure 35. Okay, because I can guarantee you, I play this with orchestras. We do the same thing with orchestras, what we're doing there. Okay, so now measure 35, measure 36, again, it starts piano. Measure 37 is crescendoing, crescendos into 38, and finally by 39, we're forte. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 measures of crescendo. Alrighty, and then I would take a big breath there. If you have to take a breath before that, you can do it after maybe the second measure, 35, 36. Take a breath. Da 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 da. Breath. So a couple options here is at the end of 36, take a breath, and at the end of 37, take a breath. We know how to do 35, 36, and 37. Now 38, what we're going to do, we're going to continue to crescendo into 39, which is forte, but at the same time, we're going to slow it down a little bit to end up this phrase area. So I would do something like, and breath, and then you go again. So if I do the whole shebang, let me start back at 33 and do all that, show you. Alrighty, so that's one way to approach this. Now at 39, we're forte, so we're driving away. 40 is a combination of duple slurrings and some tonguing. 41, so we continue the forte all the way into measure 42. I'll start at 39. Alrighty, so that'll get us through the page 1. Okay, now let's take a look at page 2, measure 43. Now here we have some really da, 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 really pompous here. Alright, so right in here, that whole thing is forte. It just drives all the way through there. What I like to do in measure 43, 45, 51, 55, I like to just put a little more da, 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 just a little bit more weight, maybe a hint of a separation. And again, since I'm using vibrato, I can really use the vibrato to enhance. Those are accent and quarter notes. Alrighty? So that'll get me all the way down to 58. Now guess what happens at 59? Oh, we have the return of the A theme, like measure 3. It's very similar. Same thing, starts out piano, and then measure 60, yeah, we have all that. So you could go back to what we originally talked about, particularly when we got up to measures 11 and 12, how to use the embouchure. Alrighty, so all that would be the same thing as the beginning. 67, again, it's the same thing. Starts out pianissimo in a crescendo through 69. 70, we're going to have a decrescendo and we'll slow it back down. And again, I demonstrated one of the breath areas I talked about, where I went la da 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 da, breath, ya da. I went into it like that. So that's one way to do it if you can't hold it the whole time. The secret is to sneaking in a breath is don't tongue the note before. Okay, 71, all that should look familiar. Again, you see how I brought it down dynamically and I slowed it down here to make sure I could get a good breath. The pianos will go with you, and then here we are at 75. Alrighty? Okay, now 79 to the end, it's kind of like a recap of what we just did. So that should look familiar again. Now it's okay, so it's a beautiful piece of music. Oh my goodness, it's beautiful. So all the things I talked about earlier apply here. Now, 85 to the end, we're just getting softer. Softer, 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 softer. And the hardest thing is pickups into 87, then go into 88. Ya, 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 ya. And it's all done here. So what I would do, I would just practice. Because again, you're changing basically measure 87. The B flat is almost your third octave embouchure. It's getting close to it. The G is definitely second octave embouchure, and then the high E flat is definitely third octave embouchure. So you're going, you're having to change. You're having to make that change. I'll try one more time. Alrighty, so I think if you're like me, you love this piece after hearing it. It's just a beautiful work. And every time I look at my judges sheet on what the students will be playing before they come in, I'm like, this one's a winner. This is actually very, very difficult to play musically. It is extremely difficult to play musically. And so this one, don't think you're going to spend a couple weeks on and then go and perform it. Now this one you're going to spend some time with. And then the beauty is, as you master your part, you can work with the pianist to create all these nuances I was talking about dynamically and tempo-wise. All the rubatos, the accelerandos into these phrases. You can do all this kind of stuff. And so I think you'll be on your way. There's millions of recordings on this. You could just type in the work it came from down below the MENUET, type in BIZET, and you can see the orchestral version. You recognize it instantly. You can look for other flutists doing this whole thing. I have a video of it on YouTube. You can look me up doing this, and it's a lot of fun to play. So with that, I think we'll stop here, and until next time, this is Dr. David Klee, and I certainly wish you the best of luck in your future endeavors on flute. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.